Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. Yes, I'm already having fun. I've spent a couple minutes with my guests on the line. I've got Simon Mainwaring on. I'm in the middle of my laugh, chuckling about everything. But thank you for being here.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I might call myself Salmon from now on. I mean, it's not a bad thing, depending on what day of the week it is. I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, on my last show, I was talking about, you can take your omega-3s, right?
Oh, right.
And so there's this big discussion about, is it better to have salmon oil omega-3s or all the other cold water fish, omega-3s?
Right.
I don't know. I didn't get a clear answer. So sorry about that.
It's one of the life's great mysteries.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Well, look, I'm pleased to have you. We're bringing guests on this year that are bringing value to our entrepreneurs, people that are making a difference in their lives. We're kind of post-COVID, and some of us are still trying to figure it out. And I know you've got some great tools, and I want to hear all about them and kind of in a good order that you want to present them. But tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how you got to where you're at today, and we'll dig in from there.
So thanks for the chance to speak to your listeners. And hi, everyone. Simon Mainwaring. I'm Australian, as you can hear. I live in Los Angeles for the last 25 years, and I was an ad guy for a long time in Australia, London, and then in the US. And I was one of the 5 writers on Nike, Wyden and Kennedy, their ad agency, and wrote about all those fancy athletes. And then I was worldwide creative director on Motorola and launched the Razr phone many, many years ago, which shows you how old I am. There you go. And since then, I've actually moved into being an author and started a consultancy called We First. And what we do is we build purpose-driven brands. And the reason we do that is because if we all look around, if you look at your phones and you look at the headlines, we all know that there's a lot of challenges out there. So how do you as an entrepreneur still continue to thrive in these very difficult circumstances? And having kind of been inside the engine room of a lot of companies, large and small, over the years, and really being lucky enough to see what works, I wanted to create the tools that would allow companies to have a positive impact, but also grow their business.
Yeah. So I want to talk, this is kind of a global statement that you have on your website, but I want to talk about it because I think it's so important, and it touches on 3 big things. It says, together we build brand movements that regenerate our communities, society, and planet. These are all hot topics right now. And right now I'm big on community, right? I've got kids in school, involved in school board and all these extracurricular activities. Community, especially in a rural town, is so important. But how do we bring that back through business, especially in the bigger cities?
Well, it's a great question. And here's the truth. No one of us as entrepreneurs has the resources to build our business all on our own. We need to inspire the community to want to build it with us. And the way we do that is you actually contribute to the community, and therefore they want to support you. They want to buy your products. They talk about your brand. They want to see you succeed. And really the goal, Jim, is that everyone becomes an extension of your marketing department. Because as young entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter how big or small your company is, you don't have enough resources. You don't have a massive marketing team or budget. And so the way that companies need to think about it is, how do you position your company not in a self-directed way, like look at me, look at my products, look at my services, but rather to say, here's what the larger purpose of my company is. Here's my commitment, not only to ourselves, but to others. And then the company, its products, its services, its impact is all a function of that. And the power of that reversal of, that shift from being self-directed to being community-focused unlocks the power of everyone in your community to build your business with you, whether it's a massive company like Airbnb, which is providing free accommodation for refugees at the Ukrainian border right now. That makes people go, wow, they're part of the global community. They're showing up, they're doing something meaningful, and that makes me feel good about the brand. Or whether it's your local company, just in your local community, wherever you are, and you're just showing up and giving back in some way and taking products to market that are going to make people's lives better. So it's about serving your community so they can serve you.
So that begs a bigger question, and I I get it, but it's been a part of my DNA for 30 plus years. I've always had a give back philosophy in my businesses. How do we approach that in business if we don't have a give back philosophy today? Where do you start to implement that? Or how do you figure out what is your give back going to be?
One of the great challenges for any company, especially if you're time poor, resource poor, if you're like stressed by the world around you, is it's hard to read the label from inside the jar. It's hard for you to see yourself from inside your own company. So what do? The first thing you've got to do is decide if you want to be a purposeful company, if you want to show up and have a meaningful role, not just because it'll have a positive impact, but because you realize that's what your employees, that's what your customers want, and it'll help your business. If you decide you want to do that, here are the three things you got to do. Number one, you've got to define your purpose. And to define your purpose, you've got to answer some questions. And here are the three key questions that I would recommend. And we've done this work with companies that are just starting out all the way through to the Toms and Timberlands of the world and so on. The first one is, what is your enemy? In the sense of, what is that thing, that problem, that issue you exist to solve? What is that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning? Secondly, what are you the only of? Because there's only one team like yours, in one place like yours, at one moment like yours. What are you the only of? And then when you're at your best, what are you doing? When you're at your best, when if you're a solopreneur, you high-five yourself in the mirror, or you're with a small team, you're high-fiving yourself because something went well. If you answer those three questions, you'll start to see a theme emerge, which speaks to what your purpose is, why you exist, what gets you out of bed in the morning. The second thing you've got to do is pull that through your organization, small or large team, and say, hey, this is what we're about. And you ask them, how would you like us to bring this to life? So again, it's not self-directed to you, the founder or owner, but really the whole company embraces your purpose. And they'll unlock all these really cool ideas that you wouldn't have had on your own. And then the third thing you need to do is to really go out into the world as part of your marketing and speak to your customers about the positive impact you want to have, so that when they buy your product or service, they kind of go, oh, this is cool because I like the way they're showing up in the world. They're making a difference to something that matters to me, and their product's at a good price and it's got good benefits and so on. So define your purpose, pull it through your organization and activate it with your employees, and then go out to your consumers and really see that they're partners in impact with you. And again, all of those people will build your business with you.
I love that. The thing is, if somebody just only heard that in this show today alone, they will find success in that. It's interesting, just to prove your point. I've been active in our community the last 3 years. And again, it's a small rural town, doing a lot of community events, volunteering for a lot of things. This year, with conscious effort, I've been pushing out there that I'm doing a public speaking tour. And I wasn't trying to get business locally. Okay, I launched this in mid-January. I've done 6 events locally in the last 30 days. People saw the post, say, hey, by the way, we'd like to hear you speak over here. And the thing is, people pay attention. They're paying attention to this formula that you're talking about and how you put yourself out there, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They really are. And if we take a really big picture, kind of global view of things, as you mentioned, we see in the press every day climate. You see this extreme weather. You hear about the oceans and all these different issues. And we're all worried about our future. You've got kids. I've got a 23-year-old and 20-year-old daughter. I'm worried about their future. At a very local level, you see that a lot of our communities are struggling and they need more support. And the business is really better equipped than most to make a positive difference. So from a big picture and small picture, you've got to show up. And the key to my message is 3 words: lead with we. And it's a very simple formula you can apply to any decision out there, whether you're the CEO, whether you're an HR at a company, whether you're a salesperson. How do you choose to lead in terms of making a positive impact with as many other people as possible to benefit the largest we? And it has to be that simple, because it's got to be something you can apply to any decision. And why do you do that? Because when you do that, you'll inspire the greatest number of people to like your brand, to buy your product, to help you achieve impact, and all of that will drive your growth.
Simon, we didn't catch much of your background on how you got to this point. Where did you earn all these accolades and this wisdom? I spent almost 40 years in the food and beverage industry and earned my stripes there. But tell us a little bit about where things started way back when for you.
Well, the big transition for me was, to your point about saying yes, is that I was a pretty self-important ad guy for a while. You run around the world working in cool ad agencies trying to sell stuff. And at some point, I was a young dad with 2 young kids here in LA, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not
Yeah.
happy. I don't know. I had no meaning in my life, quite honestly, Jim. And then something really sort of unexpected happened. I walked into my kitchen one day in LA, and there was an answering machine, which shows you, again, I'm a little bit older than some of our listeners. Yeah. And there was 5 messages, one from my mum yelling down the phone because she was calling from Sydney to try and wake me up in my bedroom in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Then a next message, my mum even louder calling down the phone. Third message, my sister yelling down the phone. Fourth message, my mum very upset. And then the last message was, Simon, Dad died. He was calling to say goodbye. Call us when you wake up.
Oh my God.
And I hadn't seen my dad for 5 years because I've been running around kind of being a dad with a young family in LA and getting kids through school and stuff like that. And he'd been sick for a long time. But those words wake up really kind of hit me in the side of the head. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what the hell am I doing, Jim? Like, I'm not happy. I don't know what it is. And I don't understand why I'm unhappy. And it was so frustrating, Jim, because, you're trying to be a good dad. You're trying to be a good father. You're trying to be a good man. And yet you just keep falling short. And then I happened to read a speech that Bill Gates gave at the time that year. This is 2007, 2008, when the economy, went sideways. And he said the business sector's got to show up differently. We can't have all this negative impact and then not try and fix the problem. And so I wrote a book. I spent 3 years writing a book called We First, How Brands and Consumers Use Social Media to Build a Better World, because I saw that these tools could be helpful because they can organize people and you can make a difference together. And so for the last 13 years, my company, We First, has been helping startups and purpose leaders like Tom's and Timberland to large global enterprises really identify their purpose, pull it through their sustainability efforts, rally all their employees around it, and then go out to market with things that are going to make a positive difference. And that has only got more important over the last 13 years. You hear about business doing good everywhere now. Why? Because we're in trouble. And so, mate, I'd love to say that I did it because I just had a clever idea and I had a strategy or plan. I just was lost and life came along and knocked me sideways. And in terms of saying yes, for the first time in my life, Jim, I stopped trying to fix things. I stopped writing lists. I stopped having a plan. I stopped trying to control things. And I just sat in kind of my grief at the time. And I was like, whatever happens next, I'm just going to say yes, because whatever up till this point, it hasn't been working for me,
Yeah. What a tough story to hear. I couldn't imagine being in your shoes at the time. The business that you were in, going selling ads, right? Grinding away with the family. I mean, did you feel like you were a success at the time, or was it feeling a little bit dead end?
I have to say, I would think maybe like a lot of other people, I was living different versions of success as prescribed to me by other people. Oh, if you get this job title, that'll make you happy. Or if you win that award, that'll make you happy. Or, if you go and work at this place, that'll make you happy. And I don't know, there was just some gnawing feeling inside me where I was walking around my backyard in LA, you're doing the hard yards with the family and you're putting food on the table, but privately, you're not talking about it to anyone, but you're like, why am I unhappy inside? And so I thought I was trying to be successful in the way that you're supposed to, but I wasn't being honest to myself. And I didn't find that alignment between who I am and what I do. And only when my family stuff hit the fan did I realize, wait a second, what do you care about? What's meaningful to you? How am I going to bring that to life in the world? And how can you use the skills you've developed so far to do it? And I had no idea what I was doing, Jim, to your point about saying yes. I just thought, listen, business can do better. These problems do seem serious and they do look like they're going to get worse. So what can we do? And I had no idea. I've always just been making it up as I go along, saying yes to an opportunity or a relationship or to an idea. And, I think when you lean into yourself and you have that alignment between your purpose and what you do, great, really good things can happen.
A lot of thoughts are going through my mind. I actually lost my father in a major transition in my life as well. And I found a better life on the other side of that. It wasn't quite the hit to the head like you got. I was ready for it. He had
Right.
cancer and I was taking care of him his last year. But I think, point you made earlier about you were chasing what you thought you were supposed to chase based on other people's versions of success.
Yeah.
And then you're in that rat race and you're medicating one way or another to stay there. I mean, in my world in the past, I've seen it through alcohol and drugs and, fancy cars and stuff. And I think we, as humans, we find ourselves in that position way too often.
Well, it's really, really true, Jim. I mean, no one teaches any of us, male or female, how to be an adult in that sense, how to live with integrity and work out who you are and what you should be doing, and then explore careers that might bring that to life. And I've had a chance to do a bunch of speaking on the strength of the books and stuff. And here's what I've learned from these other people. I've talked to so many great folks and some well-known about this. And what I've learned is this. I thought fulfillment came from the outside in. Mm-hmm. I thought if you got that job title or that business or that salary or that recognition, then I would feel fulfilled. But what I've learned is fulfillment is an inside out job. You fill yourself up by what you give to others, not by what others give to you. And that sounds simple, but I spent most of my life, Jim, chasing the wrong thing. Yeah. And now that I'm trying to give to others and really support other businesses and entrepreneurs and share the lessons that I've learned in the work inside these companies, I never question what I'm doing anymore. And I don't look second guess what others are doing or look what they've done, because this is my truth. And I think when we give ourselves the gift of really defining our own purpose and bringing that to life through our company or through our role inside a company, everything changes. Everything clicks into place. The universe says, there you are. I mean, about time. We've been waiting for you. And it starts to trigger a lot of things that you otherwise won't enjoy because you just keep beating your head against the wrong wall,
Yeah. Simon, how do we convince people or assure people that that's where our heart is at? Because I'm exactly in line with what you're doing in a different arena of people. But I've realized really in the last 5 years, I did a lot of work with my good friend and coach, David Meltzer, Orange County guy. And I just realized like by giving to others, life is so much more fulfilling. And I think you pick up some of that being a dad as well, or a parent. It changed my life a lot. But how do we really let people know, like, this is really truly my heart? I'm not trying to sell you on something here that I don't mean, wholeheartedly here.
Yeah. I mean, living with integrity is a hard thing. We all have to work on it every day for sure. And I think men especially, and I'd say this as an Australian male who kind of, we're all too tough by half all the time and never admit vulnerability or any of that stuff, that we've got a lot going on inside us that we don't reveal. And I think the more honest we can be with ourselves and the more we examine and excavate what is really meaningful to us, and the more brave we become to show that on the outside in terms of how we live our lives and how that manifests through our work and even how we talk about our businesses, the more people will go, oh my God, we knew you were like that all the time, but you never showed up. It's not like you're going to shock them or freak them out. They're going to see your authentic self and go, there you are. I mean, we felt that about you all the time, but now you just seem so much happier and your work seems so much more fulfilling and you seem like you're in a good place. And someone says, wow, I don't know, you seem better, you're in a good place, or, I don't know, man, I love the way you're showing up right now. And, the simple articulation that I have for it, and I've seen this in founders of really, really well-known companies and executives from really big, complex companies, is that when they lean into themselves that way, and when they align, they show their heart as well as their head to who they work with. And when they that serves as a permission slip for everyone else in the company to show up that way. Whether you got 3 people, 5 people, 100 people, if you show up that way and say, this is who I am, this is what I care about, this is the difference I want to make, they all then do the same. And that transforms your organization. It transforms the experience of customers. It transforms how much your community embraces you. It changes the ideas you have. And it really kind of helps you make decisions at a tough economic time after 2.5 years of COVID and all the craziness. Whenever you get uncertain, you can go, well, actually, what's my purpose? And who am I? And what do I believe in? And what is constant in this world of change? So it really helps you decide what to do, but also what not to do. And it's a gift that keeps on giving, Jim, 100%.
Yeah. Well put. Appreciate that. Let's talk about your book a little bit. I know you've got a couple, but which book is your most current and some of the values in that?
Thanks. It's a book called Lead with We that came out last year, and it has received a lot of recognition because I think what I tried to do was to take all the last 13 years of work with startups and mid-sized companies and very, very successful companies who want to kind of become we companies, who want to drive their growth and have a positive impact. But how the hell do you do that? What do you do? Where do you start? Because when you think about it, most companies think in terms of me. It's like, I'm the CEO, my profit, my products, my services, my sales, my P&L. But increasingly, employees want to work for, buy from, and invest in companies that are doing good, that are showing up in a we sense. So the book lays out step by step all the insights and questions you need to ask for how you as a CEO or founder, or someone in charge of culture, or an employee, someone in sales and R&D, or someone who wants to have an impact through your company, the steps you take to drive growth through impact. And I want to say one thing. This is not something that is going to go away. These issues that we're solving for, whether it might be some of the community challenges we have, or it might be, I don't know, plastics in the ocean, or we're losing species, or whether it's extreme weather and climate, all of these issues are getting more and more acute. So the expectation on business is only going to increase, where people are going to look at you and go, do I want to buy your stuff? Well, that depends on whether you're part of the problem or part of the solution. And so whether you're a small, mid-size, or large company, it gives you a step-by-step roadmap and action plan for how you lead with case studies, research, and the steps you can take. And that was my way of saying, hey, I'm going to take all these 13 years of learning and put it out there so more people can do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think a mistake that people are starting to make, and that is the assumption that life is going to go back to as we knew it. And the reality is it's exactly what you talked about. We have transitioned into the new norm. Like you said, things are very acute, that we're going to continue to have these problems, not to mention with the exposure we're seeing through just different media platforms so that we can see what's actually happening around the world, right? I've been supporting activities in Baja, Mexico for the last 30 years, and I'm more in tune with what their needs are now, just because we're more forward facing on social media, on communication, cell phones, et cetera. And we're able to make more of a difference. I love that you brought that up, because I think sometimes people are like, it's going to go back the way it was at some point. We don't need to change. And to your point, we do. We really do.
We do need to change. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, and I think if you're an entrepreneur today, you're feeling a whole bunch of pressures. One is a recession coming? Another is, hey, I'm worried about climate and extreme weather. There just seems to be a lot of things going wrong everywhere. I'm also worried about, homelessness and how well communities are surviving right now. And I feel a lot of pressure from employees who are quitting, and also customers who want to buy from companies doing good. So you've got all these pressures going on. And to solve for that, there's a couple of things I would recommend. One, you've got to recognize that leadership inside any company is going to be defined by the ability to manage through multiple crises at once. Because right now we have Ukraine. Right now we have, inflation and the prospect of a recession. We've had COVID all the way through. We've all been managing multiple crises at once. And that's going to continue. It's not going to go back to normal, as you said, Jim. The second thing is, instead of building on the past, we've got to back out of the future. If you want your company to grow, if you want to be the name brand in your category, if you want to make more money and have a greater impact, you have got to look at where the world is going to be in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, and make decisions and plan according to that. Because the past has less to do with the future than ever, because all of these things are now taking on a life of their own, whether it's climate, whether it's, plastics in the ocean, things like that. And so your best guide for planning is the future. And the whole premise of the book Lead with We is to say, okay, how do you mobilize the greatest number of people to have work to the largest collective benefit, so that the market forces that will reward those companies that are doing good will work in your favor with your company as things get complicated and tougher in the future?
I love that perspective. That's a great way to approach it. It doesn't matter where you sit in society, what your beliefs are, that works for everybody.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing, Jim. Here's the crazy thing. I mean, I'm Australian, so this whole mate thing is really real. Like, g'day, mate. We're all equal. We're all connected. No BS. No one's better than anybody else. But the truth is, we butt heads through social media and politics and all these things all the time. But we are connected to each other as human beings, as part of the human family, through the community lens, through the country lens, through the global lens. We're also deeply connected to the planet. Well, I don't care if you like mountains or you like oceans or you like going for a hike. We all have those moments where like, damn, this is pretty special. Like, this is great. And you want to protect it. This is a precious, precious planet, and it makes our life possible. And we don't want to see it all go to hell. And those two drivers, our connection to each other and our connection to the planet, are increasingly what we got to get back to. So how does business get there? How can business deepen your connections to those you care about and the planet that makes it all possible so your business can thrive? And that's really what the whole thrust of my work and the book and the course, the Lead with We course, and that I put up, is really to help people do, not just understand, but activate and apply to their business so they can unlock the value to their business, but also the value to others.
I like the one thing you just said about activate. We like to talk about things, but activate is the key word, because until we actually step up and do something, I don't know why my mind went to the garbage on the side of the freeway. We don't have freeways in Montana, by the way. At least not where I live, right? We've got bypasses and stuff. But I was driving to the store yesterday with my wife. She's, there's a lot of trash on the side of the road. I'm like, it's disgusting. Sometimes corporate puts those little signs up, cleanup provided by such and such, but yet it's still a mess. Right. Sometimes you just have to get out there and pick up the garbage yourself, right? Get your team, go out there and pick up the garbage, whatever that looks like. It could be anything. Activate and do.
It is. It's all about, it's in the doing. We can talk all day long. We can talk all day long, but we've actually got to get it done. And, it's interesting. For the last 3 years, I've done this podcast, Lead with We, that every week I have founders or global CEOs on talking about what they're actually doing. Because I think a lot of people are right to be cynical about business. They talk a good game, but then what are they really doing behind the scenes? And the whole purpose of the podcast Lead with We is, how do you get it done? What are they doing in their supply chain? How they make their products? What are they doing with their people when people are quitting so much everywhere? What are they doing in terms of how they market their products so people buy it? And how do they tell the story of the good they're doing? So if you want to really understand what real companies day to day are doing in the same economic conditions that you're in, I'd recommend checking it out and learning from them. I learn so much every single time I do an episode,
Wonderful. I'm giving a speech tonight. I'm going to open it up with a quote by Geronimo, which is appropriate here. Everybody wants to be a warrior, but nobody wants to do warrior stuff.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to get into the battle. So, look, I love what you're doing. Please, you've given your title of your book and your podcast. Give it one more time for my listeners and where they can find these things at.
Yeah, I really hope these help you unlock growth for your business, but also the impact that'll make you feel really good about the work you're doing. And so the book is on Amazon. It's called Lead with We. The podcast is on Apple, Google, and Spotify, and it's called Lead with We. And then if you want to actually get a step-by-step handhold, like a course that will take you through the process to apply it to your business, go to leadwithwecourse.com. And a lot of us worry about the future. We wring our hands when we look at the headlines every day. But mate, I got to tell you, there are more hands on the wheel every day for change, and there are more and more people showing up in meaningful ways. And I deeply believe in the goodness in all of us, despite the way we we butt heads out there and so on. And there's nothing we can't achieve if we do it together. But we've just got to show up with our heart on the outside sometimes, and we got to bring that to life through business.
I've got some age on some of my listeners too, and I remember in the 80s we were all chasing money on Wall Street. There was no heart behind any of that stuff. But what I've seen in the last few years is a lot of heart and conviction to do the right thing. We survived something, depending on how you operated during that pandemic. And I see a lot more heart now. So I appreciate your message and what you're doing. And I can only hope and pray that it spreads to a lot more people through your work.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jim. And thanks to everyone listening.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please share it, post it up. You know where to find it on all major platforms. Look forward to our next guest. Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.